Yo, yo, yo. Week 9 is done. I just spent all day watching college football. The West Coast games just went off. It's like 2 in the morning. I have pajama pants on, so that's cool. And also, yes, sir. Braves are up 3-1 with a chance to close out the World Series at home in Game 5. Absolutely hype. Let's get some chops in the chat. So you already know what the deal is at this point with this. This is the college football top 25 performance tier list based off this past week. Just kind of a general summarization of these teams, how they perform. So let's go. So starting off on a Thursday night game, Troy takes on number 24 Coastal Carolina. It seems like almost every week Coastal Carolina has a weekday game. I don't know who's scheduling that, but get these guys playing on Saturday. Enough with this weekday junk. So Coastal Carolina wins 35-28. A very close game against Troy. Troy. They're terrible, just to be real. They move on to 4-4 on the season. Coastal Carolina moves on to 7-1. They took their first loss last week. So Coastal Carolina wins 35-28. Close game against Troy. These weekday games, man, there's always something going on with these. But Coastal Carolina did get the win. Like I said, Troy is pretty awful. So I'm going to give Coastal Carolina the survive tier. They got the win. That's all that matters at the end of the day, but not a very good win. Moving on to Saturday, number 1 Georgia versus Florida. Neutral site game in Jacksonville. Georgia comes out and handles Florida 34-7. Florida scored their only points with 3 minutes left in the game. This was domination in every aspect. I mean, Georgia scored 24 in the second quarter. Florida had probably the worst ending to a half that I've ever seen. Like 2 minutes left, Georgia strips the ball from Florida. On the next play, they score a touchdown. Anthony Richardson throws an interception. A couple plays later, Georgia throws a bomb for a touchdown. And then with like 10 seconds left until halftime, Anthony Richardson throws a pick six. N'Kobe Dean runs it back. Huge swing in this game. Yeah, Florida's last 2 minutes going into half. Probably the worst possible scenario for Florida. So Florida falls to 4-4 on the season. Georgia moves on to 8-0. Undefeated. Yeah, this is a rivalry game. These games are typically very close, but not this year. So based on their opponent, Georgia gets a good win. Probably their last real test of the regular season before the SEC championship game. So number 2, Cincinnati at Tulane. Tulane has 1 win this season, and Cincinnati moves to 8-0. Cincinnati wins 31-12. They scored at least 7 in all 4 quarters. Pretty consistent. Tulane scored all 12 of their points in the second quarter. Tulane is bad. Cincinnati really is in a position where they need to be winning all their games by like 30-40 points just to really impress the committee. So 31-12. The game wasn't really in question, but they didn't really beat them as bad as I feel like they should have. So for that reason, I'll give Cincinnati a decent / okay win. Still a win. Win's a win. They didn't have a real struggle at all, but I feel like it was a decent win. Texas Tech at Oklahoma. Oklahoma wins 52-21. They scored 14 in 3 different quarters, and the other quarter they put up 10. You're going to beat just about anybody you play if you score that many points. 52 points. Texas Tech scored 21. They move on to 5-4. Oklahoma's undefeated. Caleb Williams absolutely went off this game. 23 for 30, 402 yards with 6 touchdowns. Jesus Christ. He absolutely picked them apart. So Oklahoma, I think that's a good win. That's a good win for the Sooners. Number 20, Penn State at number 5, Ohio State. This was a really good game. This game was back and forth for a majority of the game. Ohio State kind of pulled away towards the end, put the game away. They just outlasted Penn State. Penn State had a good game plan going in. Sean Clifford, he balled out. 35 for 52, 361 yards and a touchdown. He was doing really all he could. But yeah, Ohio State wins 33-24. This was a dogfight majority of the game, but shout out to Ohio State for getting the win. win over a ranked team. That's a dominant win. And Penn State takes the L. Their third loss of the season. Number 6, Michigan at number 8, Michigan State. Michigan State wins 37-33. This was an insane game. Michigan got out to an early lead. I believe it was 30-14, but Michigan State has Kenneth Walker on the team. So, I mean, look at his numbers. 23 carries, 197 yards, 5 touchdowns. He put that whole team on his back. He was on a rampage. If you haven't seen him play this year, you got to check him out. He's got to be in New York at the end of the season for the Heisman ceremony. Not saying he will win it, but he's got to be there. He's got to be there. So Michigan State wins 37-33. They complete the comeback. Shout out to Mel Tucker beating Jim Harbaugh. This was a great game. But Michigan State wins by 4 over Michigan, in-state rival. Michigan State, they get the dominant win for sure. I mean, they beat the number 6 ranked team. That's huge. In-state rival, huge. Michigan takes the L. 4-point loss to the number 8 team. Definitely could have done worse than that. So Michigan takes the L. Colorado at number 7, Oregon. Colorado is 2-6 on the season now. Oregon moves on to 7-1. They win 52-29. Finally, Oregon has beaten inferior teams the way that they're supposed to. They've been in a lot of close games against vastly inferior teams all season. Finally, they jumped on one of these teams and didn't let up. 52-29. Anthony Brown had himself a day. 25 for 31, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's solid right there. I mean, their running back, 7 carries, 127 yards and touchdown. Only 7 carries. Wild. So Oregon did what they were supposed to do against a bad Colorado team. And this isn't a bad thing. This is a compliment to Oregon for handling their business the way they're supposed to. Number 9, Iowa at Wisconsin. Wisconsin wins 27-7. It seemed like forever ago that Iowa was undefeated and in a perfect position to run the table heading into the Big Ten championship. They take 2 consecutive losses. They're 6-2 on the season. Wisconsin moves to 5-3, and they only put up 7 points. Wisconsin beats them by 20. Iowa, you let me down. And you got shit to bed. That's what happens. Number 10, Ole Miss at number 18, Auburn. Both of these teams heading into this game were still alive in the SEC West. Auburn basically ruined Ole Miss's chances this game, unless something crazy happens. But Auburn is still alive in the SEC West. They have to get through Bama at the end of the season. That's easier said than done. We'll see how it plays out. So Auburn wins 31-20. Holding Ole Miss's offense to 20 points is very impressive. This is a very good win for Auburn. I'm willing to put it in dominant win. You beat a ranked team, the number 10 team. You held that offense to 20 points. Not bad at all, Auburn. And Ole Miss, you take the L. Second loss of the season. You're 3-2 in the SEC. Auburn's at 3-1. Tank Bigsby, the dude's a workhorse, man. 23 carries, 140 yards, and a touchdown. Shout out to Auburn. North Carolina at number 11, Notre Dame. North Carolina, one of the more disappointing teams this season, falls to 4-4. Notre Dame moves on to 7-1, with their only loss being to Cincinnati, the number 2 ranked team in the nation. So Notre Dame wins 44-34. 10-point win. Kyron Williams, 22 carries, 199 yards, 1 touchdown. That's pretty insane. 100 yards rushing for a running back is a great day. I mean, 199. That's pretty insane. So Notre Dame beating North Carolina. Let's see where they should go. I think Notre Dame got a good win. North Carolina, disappointing this season, but I think that's a good win for them. All right, number 12, Kentucky at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is a weird team, man. They're not very good, but twice this season they've pulled big upsets against Kentucky and Texas A&M earlier in the season. They win 31-17, handing Kentucky their second loss. Mississippi State only scored in the second and third quarter, but it was enough to beat Kentucky handily. Shout out to Mike Leach. He doesn't like candy corn. And Kentucky shits the bed. It's a bad loss. All right, Duke at number 13, Wake Forest. Wake Forest is the lone undefeated ACC team. They're still alive, and they beat Duke 45-7. They gave Duke a harsh reminder that they're a basketball school and just dominated this game from the very beginning. Sam Hartman put up 402 yards with 3 touchdowns. A very solid day for him. And Wake Forest just dominates Duke. So Wake Forest did what they were supposed to do. Shout out to Wake Forest. They're balling right now. And speaking of basketball schools, we have Kansas versus Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State wins 55-3. I thought that last game score was bad. 55-3. Kansas has 1 win this season. Oklahoma State beat the same Kansas team 55-3 that Oklahoma survived against last week. What kind of sense does that make? So Oklahoma State, very similar to Wake Forest, does what they're supposed to do against a team that football isn't even their primary sport. So they do what they're supposed to do, unlike Oklahoma last week. Texas at Baylor. Baylor hands Texas their 4th loss, beats them 31-24. Baylor moves on to 7-1. They have 1 loss all season, and they got a solid win over Texas, 31-24. I seen a tweet today that said Texas is petitioning to remove 4th quarters from football games. They have lost so many games right there at the end, blown a ton of leads this year. They got to finish the drill, man. So shout out to Baylor, 7-1, very impressive. Let's see, I think I would give Baylor a good win over Texas. They fought back from behind, and they won the game. Shout out Baylor. All right, Miami at Pitt. Pitt was the number 17th ranked team, and they lose 38-34 to Miami. Miami is now even on the season. Pitt, man, what are you doing? 38-34. Miami's backup quarterback, the guy that took over after De'Aaron King got hurt, I'm blanking on his name. He has been balling lately. That offense has come alive with him. So shout out to Miami for getting the win. Pitt, disappointing. You take the L. All right, number 19, SMU on the road versus Houston. Houston gets to win 44-37. This is SMU's first loss this year, and Houston moves on to 7-1. Houston's a good team. Both these teams put up some points, but Houston scored 14 in the 4th while SMU only got a field goal. I mean, Houston's quarterback Clayton Tune, 27 for 37, 412 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dude have himself a day. So Houston hands SMU their first loss. SMU takes the L. First loss of the season coming in week 9. It's not bad at all. All right, so the last game to be played that just went off, Fresno State at San Diego State. Fresno State's kind of a weird team. They beat UCLA earlier in the season, but they lost 2 kind of head-scratching games. But they show up ready to play against San Diego State. They win 30-20. San Diego State really couldn't get out of their own way. There was 3 different times their quarterback was rolling out and threw across his body, and he kept getting picked off. They just kept making the same mistakes. And yeah, Fresno State just outright beat them. So San Diego State takes the L against a good Fresno State team. Iowa State at West Virginia. Iowa State, very disappointed. You got no business losing to West Virginia, but you lose by 7, 38-31 against West Virginia. West Virginia moves on to 4-4 on the season. Iowa State takes their 3rd loss against a pretty bad West Virginia team. I mean, West Virginia scored 14 in the 4th quarter, while Iowa State scored 0. That will get you beat. So Iowa State, just like your in-state rival, shit the bed. The whole state shit the bed this weekend, baby. And for the final game from the top 25 this weekend, we got Virginia at BYU. This game also just went off about an hour ago. BYU wins 66-49. Crazy high scoring game. 2 different times BYU put up 21 points in a quarter. I mean, look at this. Virginia put up 35 in the 2nd quarter. What is going on? Look at these numbers. Jaron Hall for BYU threw for 22 of 37, 349 yards, and 3 touchdowns, while their running back, Tyler Algier, I don't know how to say his name. I didn't name him. But he had 29 carries, 266 yards, and 5 touchdowns. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If your passing game and running game is working like that, you're going to beat anybody you play. Not saying BYU would. I'm just saying, if you're looking at a box score after a game and your passing and running game was working that well, I would be willing to say, yeah, that team for sure won. So BYU wins 66-49. They move on to 7-2 on the season, and Virginia falls to 6-3. Virginia's a pretty good team. I think this was a very good win for BYU. I mean, this was an offensive game for sure. So BYU, I think they get a good win. They probably set all kind of BYU records with that game. So there you have it. There's your top 25 performance tier list. Had a lot of great games this weekend. I'll have a new painting video coming out very soon. I have it finished, ready to go. Yeah, go Braves. I hope your team won. So yeah, let me know how you would rank these teams. All right, later.